Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome. We are still in the month of August, and this is still the month during which we made a commitment to talk African history, to walk on memory lane, to share, celebrate, acknowledge, discover, um, to question, to reflect, and whatever you can think about. It is the GloBUNTU book launch month, and the commitment was to launch 29 books in 26 days or 27 days. We are on to day 22 today. Woo! We've launched 22 books, starting with our young authors, our very first young authors. Some of them are award winners. And all these videos, you have them on live stream. You know, they line up on the Globuntubooks Facebook page. And you can always go back and watch them, host watch parties, whatever you want to do. Take your children, watch, take your family, your colleagues, your boss from work, let them know some African history, people who are doing history, business in Africa. You can watch all of that and follow all the discussions. Some of them have been very warm, some of them have been hearty, some have been challenging, some have been, but that's what life is, isn't it, sister? That's what life is.
Definitely, definitely. Especially around this book that we are launching today. It's book 23, isn't it?
It's 22.
22.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to go back to school to learn mathematics.
Oh, maybe you're right. Maybe no, 23. My mistake. I take it. I take it. My name is Anqueta Beatrice Achaleke, the publisher of Globuntubooks, and that was my mistake. This is book 23.
Yes, I know. It's extraordinary. No wonder you forget how many, because there are just too many books that you've written. But the good thing about is these are the kind of books that provoke your thinking. You know,
Yes.
that's why I like about these books. And let me greet as well. Good
Yes, please.
afternoon, colleagues, friends, family, everyone who has joined us right now. Good afternoon. Let's spend this next hour making this Saturday a very fruitful and productive one, particularly mentally. For me,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, this is food for thought. This is food for our minds. So, an hour of feeding our minds with constructive information that we can actually take and use to liberate our minds. We mustn't be shy to say that. We know our history. And if you deny your history, you cannot be able to correct what you do in the future. So, the first step to correcting or healing from our painful past is to acknowledge this very history. And I'm happy yesterday we started with, as Aquenta put it, with women's energy, women's leadership energy in Africa, our own. We are not taking energy from alien foreign energy. We are taking energy from our own soil. So today, my name, sorry, I talk a lot, so sometimes I forget what my name is. My name is Jamila Robertson. Um, I am here in Johannesburg, in South Africa, and I'm honored to host Aquenta today. Our serial author, as she puts it, she is a serial author, which is a good thing because she's made us serial readers now. And some of us are just enjoying it and growing from it every day. Like I said yesterday, you don't read her books and walk away the same person. You definitely have to be made of stone if you read her books and walk away scot-free. They provoke you to think differently and to do things differently. So today, Anqueta, we are talking about one of your books, the 23rd we are launching today, which is Nobel Prize Winners from Africa. Now, before we get into this conversation, I know you've defined this in the book, but our audience have probably not read the book yet. They will after this. But for now, can you please enlighten us? What is a Nobel Prize? What kind of people get a Nobel Prize?
Let's go first. Greet our sisters on Facebook who are joining us. Geraldine, my goodness, you are just so amazing. Every day you tune in from Washington. Sister, you got something good by me. You got something big and good by me. And I see you every day. I celebrate you every day. And I just want to honor
Thank
you
you.
right here and tell you I see you and
Welcome.
see the passion in you. So I got something good for you. You must follow me on inbox and ask me what I got good for you. No, you get a book. You make the choice of the book that you want to have, and you get it.
Wow.
So and then we see, our sister Nonklankla Zanase is here. I hope I pronounce it properly. We see you and we welcome you. We
welcome my
you.
colleague. She's my colleague.
Oh, okay. So thank you for bringing your colleagues on board.
So.
We love this. When you like the
so.
you bring someone in. So we see our sister Cornelia. Sorry, go ahead, sis.
No, I was welcoming Nontlantla, giving a special welcome.
Oh, okay. No, but you're not gonna, you're not gonna discriminate here, right? You're gonna give everyone a special welcome.
Those for reminding me. Everyone has a Geraldine as well has a special welcome, and everyone else who comes after, they all have a special welcome. But Nontlantla is my office mate.
Okay, we get that. We take that. So I'm going to say hello to our sister Cornelia. She's always tuning in as well from Germany. It's our South African sister who is a politician in Germany. She is in a very high political office, a very challenging one as an immigrant, as a visible immigrant. And I love the fact that she's always here. Sister, you got something good by me as well. I see your hat. Yes, and I love those hats. So let's go straight to the book. We're talking about Africa's Nobel Prize winners. And, the book starts with a question that you just asked. What the heck is a Nobel Prize?
Yes.
And the Nobel Prize is the highest global recognition that was created, I think, in 1991 by Mr. Nobel. And this prize is awarded every year in Sweden. And it's given to people in 5 categories, people who are leading in 5 categories. There is chemistry, peace, physics, physiology or medicine, and the other one, I just escaped my memory. When I write these books,
literature.
Literature. Thank you. Literature. Yes. So that is what the Nobel Prize is. And if you want to read the rest, you just need to get your own copy of the book. Today, I'm not going to show you a copy, but I will show you the picture of a copy on my screen because I ran out of my printed copy. When you run a company, a publishing company like we have at Globuntubooks, and you're a very small company, you print on demand. So sometimes you run out of copies when print orders have not come in. You may run out of copies, and that is the case now with the Nobel Prize winners. But no worries, as usual, we will walk you through the manuscript and show you some of them. But most importantly, we are going to have our conversation because I think that conversation always adds another dimension to what you read in the books.
Okay. Now that we know, or you wanted to clarify further?
No, I think let me just put on the screen maybe the book that we're talking about today. Just very quickly flash it.
Okay.
So it is this book. It is this one we're talking about today, the Africa's Nobel Prize winner. It's a book that has also already been recommended for schools in Gauteng. So we're very happy about that. So kids can find them in the school library, not for this school year, but starting from the 2021 school year. It should be in non-paying schools. And otherwise, you can have it on the Globuntubooks website, www.globuntubooks.com. There you have the contact form. You can reach out to us at any time. All the conversations that we've had, you can always come back if you have a question. If you want to join the master classes, you're free to join them. We have master classes for kids. We have affirmation master classes for kids. We have writers master classes for adults. And we have one master class that is very close to my heart, sis, is the master class for Black women 40+. So
Thank you very much. Thanks for that reminder, because no, because what you are doing with these books is not just to throw the information at us. You also are giving us the tools to do likewise. If you pretty much holding our hands to be able to follow the example, if you know what I mean. Now let's go back to this
just one
book.
moment there. You see, our history is largely untold. And I can't pretend to be telling African history. I think one of the mistakes that we make quite often in our narrative is that when we do a piece, we say we're saving Africa. We say we're
Mm,
saving
mm,
Africans, which is not
mm.
right. It's not correct.
Yes,
Africa is too big for one person to save. Africa is too
thank
big
you.
for one organization to save. Africa is way too big for one company or one country to save. We all are called upon as Africans to play our little part, to lay our little
Exactly,
cornerstone, to put our brick
exactly.
on the building of Africa. So I'm
Yeah.
saying that I'm here to save Africa. I'm writing African history. It's a big lie. I am
Mm,
writing the one that I see. I'm just playing my little role. And by this, I'm not being humble. I'm just being realistic.
mm,
Because the moment
mm,
we go
mm,
out there and put it out as if we are the saviors of this continent, we are abusing that continent. We are disrespecting the continent. We are
mm,
minimizing and reducing the continent to what it is not. It is much bigger than we are. It was here before
mm.
we came. It's going to be here when we
Yes,
leave. And so we're just here, call upon to
exactly.
play our small role. And I think we should play that with a lot of respect, but also with a lot of, with a realistic approach and
Mm, mm,
acknowledging what we're doing, but not doing as if we are the only one doing it. I think that's for me a
mm,
narrative that we need to change. So I just needed to put that out and said that's the reason why I am, saying when I write, I wish that many people would write so that we can have more history out there, so that we can have more
exactly.
perspectives out there. I want that we should have many voices out there, and we can have more voices, more African Black voices out there. So that's why I really wish to coach as many people as possible who are interested and willing to write to actually do so, whether
Mm,
you're an adult or a kid, whether you're a man or a woman,
exactly.
or
Right
something else,
there.
you're another gender, whether you're another gender, you're all welcome.
Right there. That is wisdom. Hence, I'm saying, having started in your little corner, you are encouraging all of us to join in, because you are cognizant of the fact that no one, Africa is very big. It has almost 1.4 billion people. No
Mm-hmm,
one person can
mm-hmm,
do anything alone. And
mm-hmm,
that is the approach that I'm commending right now, that
mm-hmm,
you acknowledge that it's not something you hear every day. We all want to be known for having pioneered or done something for Africa, and the ability to say, I'm doing the bit I can, but I encourage you to join in, and you even act upon that by offering these master classes. That is what I'm commending, and thank you very much for opening our minds in that regard, because each one of us need to be able to do that, so that we can go somewhere. If we all work in silo, thinking we are doing things for Africa alone, we can never win in that mentality. And I want to say, I might sound like I'm veering off the rails, but I feel compelled to say this, that if you that might be one thing we need to copy from our colonizers, because they can be divided in other things in life, but when it comes to colonizing Africa or getting the resources from Africa, they stick together like glue, and that's a lesson that we need to learn. Not that we probably are able to do that, and we are capable of doing that, but I don't even want to list what might sound like excuses. When you go back to history, sometimes people say, forget the past. You can't forget the past. I said this earlier. You can't forget the past if you want to make the future, if you don't want history to repeat itself, so to speak. So I have said what was in my chest. Shall we go back to the book?
Yes, let's go back to the book.
Okay. You will tell me when you need to acknowledge colleagues who are joining in.
Sure.
Meanwhile, I will just ask you the questions that are burning inside of me. I'm always burning. I was burning yesterday. I got cold at night when I was sleeping. Now I'm burning again.
I love
So,
it when we burn. When we burn, we do the greatest thing. That's when we burn boundaries, we burn borders, we burn walls, we burn whatever, and something new always comes out when something burns down. So let's go burn.
to the book. I want you to talk to us about the numbers. I counted 24
Mm-hmm.
in the book. And as I was saying, I was trying, this is my area of work. I don't look at anything without disaggregating.
Mm.
I was trying to count the gender differences, or let me say sex differences, racial differences, age differences, and so forth, and background generally. And race sometimes it's a confusing thing because it's a question of a personal identity. So as I was looking, the physical look tells me one thing, but the background tells me something different. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I want you to talk to us about the 24 in your book, perhaps not necessarily comparing, but maybe, yes, comparing to the Nobel Prizes that have been handed out to people since inception. What are they? Which people received them, where in the world, how many in well, not necessarily in each country, because it's not what you've done in this book, but this book is about Nobel Prize winners in this continent, but generally compared to Nobel Prize winners globally. Talk to us about that.
You touched on something that came into my mind when I was writing that book. When I wrote about the Africa's female presidents and prime ministers, the next thing was like, so who are our Nobel Prize winners? Are there any here, and how many are they? So I went after them. Also because in the biography of one of the female presidents, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, she's one of the Nobel Prize winners. So I went after that. That was a clue for me to go looking for the Nobel Prize winners. And just like you say, at the moment we have in the book I finished in 2018. Then we had 24 Nobel Prize winners. Last year we had another Nobel Prize winner. So that makes it 25. And so we are this big continent, the second largest continent in the world. And we are about 1.2 billion people compared to other parts of the world. You realize that, we're not very visible. We are not recognized. I don't want to believe that we don't have we don't have all that what it takes to become a Nobel Prize winner. I don't want to believe that, because when I look around us, I look, there are just so many amazing people who are excelling in all the five categories of the Nobel Prize. But I realized that we have only had that number 25 right as we're speaking at this moment. When I look over to America, which can fit into the map of Africa, I don't know how many times, I realized that over there they have close to over 350 Nobel Prize. I don't know how many they are right now. But when I started counting and I passed the number of 250, I was like, gosh, I'm not going to continue this thing. I'll go back to my continent and look what is happening there. So America has the largest number of Nobel Prize winners. The other European countries, European as a continent has also a huge
surprise.
Yes, so it doesn't surprise me anyway. It doesn't surprise me. The founder of the Nobel Prize was a Swiss, a Swede from Sweden. So it doesn't surprise me. But I would have expected more. I would have expected more that this continent is recognized. So again, we are happy for those who are here. We're happy for those who are here. And like you rightly pointed out, the majority of them are not just male, but white males. They are white males. So when you look at the African continent, remember in book 3, we were asking the question, are all Africans black? It's every black person an African, and is every person in Africa, an African? Or so that's that's a conversation that makes up Africa. Africa is that one continent in the world where you find people who are, who have different skin colors, and they are Africans. They say they're Africans. I mean, we have in Europe, where I lived for 20 years, there's so many black people who were born in Europe, so many black people who have been in Europe for centuries. But I never heard anyone say they were Europeans. When I used to define myself as a black European, people used to look at me like, they say, you come from Africa, you're an African woman. So Africa seems to be that continent that accommodates, that accepts, that is welcoming, that has that hospitality to not just welcome people, but to give them, to accept that they belong, they come, they're happy here, and they have that sense of belonging. I don't know whether they define themselves as Africans, but as Nobel Prize, in the category of Nobel Prize, they said they were Africans. So we own them, right? We claim and we own them, and we say they're African Nobel Prize winners. That's what is in the book.
And what you are saying, actually, let me put this forward on the onset, that our discussion today is going to be controversial, and we're not apologizing for that. We're saying what is in our minds and what we believe. And the idea is not to offend, but is to bring the truth forward, or our truths at least. So when you talk about having lived in Europe for 20 years, I have lived for over 10 years. Yes, I agree. I was never called a British woman or a black British. I was always African, told to go back to Africa. And people who are of Jamaican descent, some were born, like you said, for centuries, they've lived in England, but they will never be English or British or whatever, even though their passport say they are British, but in real life, they are African. They are black. They are colored. They are African. They can never be European. But here, and I'm not sure. I mentioned this a little bit yesterday. Our welcoming nature and as Africans, and how that even makes us vulnerable. Because when you are welcoming and you welcome a shark, you don't realize it's gonna swallow you. You open the doors with pleasure. So here in Africa, especially in South Africa, you do have white people who identify themselves as African, and we have recognized them as African, and we don't have a problem with that. And I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm just highlighting that us Black people, it doesn't matter whether you're in India, you're in wherever you are in the world, you are Black and you are African. It doesn't matter whether you're born there or your ancestors were born there. But with us in Africa, it's the other way around. As soon as strangers come, we become a welcoming host. And we adopt them, we identify them as one of our own. I'm not sure even how to argue that. I'm just putting this forward that this is who we are, but sometimes this is what makes us vulnerable. What do you think about that? Because these are my controversial views, if you like. But what are your thoughts around that?
I agree with you completely. I do agree. Also, you see, when Africans are abroad, they are considered immigrants. They are immigrants. When other people come to Africa, they are either expatriates, they are business people, they are investors, they are sponsors, they are whatever. That distinction in terms of definition is not by chance. It has consequences. It has consequences because it determines how far you can belong. It determines what you get. It determines your story. And quite often it determines your story even before you come in. Okay, so this is something that we need to look. My daughter is born in Europe. She has an Austrian dad. But people tell her you're African. People don't say you're African European. They don't say you are, both. People say it's clear you're African. So anything that looks a little bit black, it's African automatically, whether you want it, whether you like it or not. And down here, you may look different. And if you say you're African, we accept you as an African. We don't even argue. We don't even have an integration program for people who come here. We don't even ask them to learn our language, which is the case in other areas, in other parts of the world. You come in, you have an integration packet, you have to integrate, you have to learn the language, and we know that learning the language is one of the best ways to brainwash you, because you learn the culture, you learn everything through the language. That's the means of communication. And so when you learn, you think that you belong. Let me tell you something, sis. In Austria, they used to tell me, you are a foreigner with an Austrian passport. So people tell you that all the time. People tell you that all the time. And I don't see anyone in Africa saying you're a foreigner with an African, claiming African identity. But let's go to the Nobel Prize winners. This discussion is very controversial. We can have another session to talk on that. But we can talk about the Nobel Prize winners of Africa, who all have different skin colors, different backgrounds. Some of them have dual nationalities. Some of them are also claimed by other countries, to say, oh no, their parents came from there, or they originated from here. So they are our Nobel Prize winners, and not just African Nobel Prize winners. So this is what is sparking up this conversation, and I think we have to have it.
Yes.
Before we go on, Geraldine says, we can never forget our past. Our past make us, Geraldine. Those are our roots. We come from there. And neglecting is like cutting the ground off our feet, the ground on which we stand, in my opinion. And the more we know about our past, the better we are able to shape the present. We are able to experience the present and to shape the future. And I haven't seen anywhere, no one forgets their past. Cornelia, my sister, I must apologize for having said that you're a politician. Because when you're in NGOs, you do political work. For me, in a way, not being a non-partisan politician, because the work you're doing out there is just political work. But let me read for clarification what you wrote. To clear things, here I am not a politician, but one of the 7 directors of the government NGO in Germany called Da Migra, a women organization making positive changes for migrant women and families. And having Hetzenberger Fofana as the first woman of color having a seat in the EU Parliament, and I have the privilege to have her as my mentor. We congratulate you and your mentor. Of course, we celebrate you, and we acknowledge the work that you do out there. It's a very, very tough job that you do, and you do it with all your heart. We acknowledge you very much for that. Geraldine says, white people in South Africa is a problem in many ways. Geraldine, that's an opinion that, it's a topic of conversation, a topic of discussion on its own. And she says, not all Black people consider themselves Africans. A topic for another discussion. I fully agree with you. I fully agree with you. We're just being human. We are just being human, and based on the experiences that we have. If some people who look Black don't want to accept their Africanness, it's fine. We're not here to force anyone. If there's some other people who don't look Black who say they're African, well, that's another pair of shoes. So this is our humanness. And when we are aware of the implications, the implications of those decisions, even the applied and the non-applied, the visible and the non-visible, the verbal and non-verbal, it's a whole dimension of factors that we need to look into. But again, each one of us, we have the right to define ourselves the way we want. So let's go to the Nobel Prize winners.
You know what? This book, we can't help the way it is. That's why I put it out there when I started that this discussion is going to be controversial, because when I read this book, I couldn't help myself but see history, it revealing the history that we already know, and the history of race, the history of gender inequality, and so forth, and the history of ageism. If you know, I understand that Generally, we say when you are young, you probably still have to achieve more. But we also know that there are young people who have made sterling achievements, whom, if you ask me, I would have nominated them for a Nobel Peace Prize. But because it looks at, older people who automatically qualify to be acknowledged, so that is something else. All I'm saying is we will sound like we are derailing, but it is the nature of this book. You can't look at it and just look say, well, we have Nobel Prize Peace winners in Africa and ignore everything that your eyes see. We're going back to the issue of race. Like I said, for many of us, it's a personal identity. If I want, I can say I'm white, and you have no right to argue with me if that's how I feel. And like you say, this is a discussion for another time. But the history that is revealed to me by this book, I said it's the typical history of Africa. And I'm saying this because all the African men and women who have won Nobel Peace Prizes in this book, at least that I have observed, they have won these prizes for peace, while the white males and females have won these prizes for science, medicine, literature, and so forth. And I was looking at this and thinking, when Africa is said to be rife with wars and so forth, I mean, that's how we are perceived. Yet we are busy winning Nobel Peace Prizes for peace. That's my first question. Please talk to us about that. And the second question in that regard is, while we were busy winning, making peace or whatever, other races were busy discovering. I mean, this is the portrayal. I'm not sure how true this is. You said earlier that, and I also believe, there are scientists, inventors, and there are so many achievements in Africa that are not recognized by the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't believe that all the prizes we deserved were for peace. So that's the second thing that I want you to just to talk about it, because you wrote this book, you did extensive research to come up with this book. So what's in your mind around these two issues?
Well, again, I wanted to look for people who carry the flag of Africa in that planet called Nobel Prize. Nobel Prize. I wanted to look for them, and when I looked for them, they came out the way you see in the book. And yes, I did acknowledge that they are not very young people. I mean, Albert Camus was one of the youngest when he received the Nobel Peace Prize. He was still in his 40s. And he was not the Nobel Literature Prize, Nobel Prize for Literature. He was still in his 40s, and he's a French Algerian. Yes, but I also looked into the fact that I asked myself the question: Can we create our own award? Is there a way where we can create our own award? Must we always wait for someone else to recognize us? And yes, when you see someone who comes up with an award, comes up with their criteria, it is their thing. So that we take what they give us. If we are not happy about what they give us, now the question is, how about we create our own? We can always go create our own. And yes, it is a complete reflection of the colonial history of Africa, as you say. And it is paradoxal. And the colonial history of Africa is paradoxal. They're saying that we are a poor continent, yet we know that the majority of the resources that sustain the world come from Africa. So it is not strange in my eyes to see that at the same time when they say we're war-torn, we're a continent with the most conflict, and yet most of our Nobel Prize winners win it for peace. So it's part of how our narrative is. That's the narrative that has been put out there for us. Now, this is why it is so important for us to write our own stories, to go see, okay, look beyond those who received the Nobel Peace Prize and say, what other qualifications did they bring? What other expertise do they bring? What other competencies do they bring? Highlight their biography so they're not just seeing from that peace perspective. I'm not saying that a Nobel Prize for Peace is something bad. I'm just saying we are more than that. We are more than that.
Yes.
And I also want to say, if we are getting for peace, it's because of the culture that we have. We talked about that hospitality. We talked about that welcoming culture. We talked about forgiveness. You see, Mandela received the Nobel Prize, the Peace Nobel Prize, not because he's a lawyer, not because of any other thing, but purely on the initiative of the Peace and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa.
Yes.
And that's the basis on which he received the Peace Nobel Prize. Archbishop Desmond Tutu received the Nobel Prize for Peace as well because of his peaceful fight against the system of apartheid in South Africa. So that is the story that is behind the Nobel Peace Prize. When you come into someone's house, the person has already built their house and furnished it the way it is. So you take the chair that they give you to sit on. And again, if we don't like that chair, and I'm challenging us Africans, we are so competent. We must not do a Nobel Peace Prize, but I know there's so many prizes in Africa, but we may also have a prize that recognizes, our finest. If we are a continent of peace, if we are good for peace, we may recognize that as well. But that also put us, having such a prize, put us on the table, on a powerful table, where we can decide what prize we want to give out to others as well. We can determine the category under which we want to recognize them, under which lens, because the category is the lens through which the awarding organization sees you. You may have doors and windows and everything, but they have a particular window, a particular lens through which they see you, and that is the one for which you receive the award. So, in as much as we are appreciative, I think we are much better. We deserve better, but in order to have that we deserve, we must create one for ourselves. The whole continent.
Yes.
I mean, the African continent can create an acknowledgement program, whether it's a prize or whether it's whatever it is, that recognizes the expertise, the competencies, the resourcefulness, all the things that are good for our continent, our own people, people that look like us, whether they are on the continent or in the diaspora.
Exactly. I just want to reiterate something you said, that when we ask the question, why peace Nobel prizes in Africa and not any other category, we are not implying that the Peace Nobel, is it the Nobel Peace Prize?
Nobel Peace Prize.
We are not. Yeah, whatever. English is not our first language, hey? We have the right to mix up the words when they don't come in order. I just wanted to reiterate that we are not saying this is a bad thing. All we are saying is we need to go beyond that and ask questions, because we can't just be content by receiving Nobel Prizes that are defined elsewhere for whatever purpose, even when we see that our achievements are not, portrayed adequately. And I like your suggestion that instead of complaining, I don't think we're complaining, we're just acknowledging what is happening. And by doing that, we don't stop there. We need to define what is of value for us as Africans that deserves a prize. It doesn't have to be called a Nobel Prize. We value the word Nobel because it came to us as a privileged label, so to speak.
No, sis is not even a privilege. That's the name of the founder. That is the name.
Well,
You know, it could
yeah,
be a Jamila
yeah,
Robertson Award. You know, Nobel, that was the
exactly.
name of the founder. So it's not like it's a real,
Yes,
so that's what
the
we're
founder
saying.
is Swiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what privileges that regard is. Your skin color, where you come from, gives automatic. Looking through history, you and I know that your skin shade gives you privilege, and this is what we're trying to heal mentally. That we don't have to value things that comes from outside Africa. Which is some of the things that are holding us back now as a continent. If something is African, we don't give it that privilege. That's what I'm talking about. So that is
Yeah.
something that we need to acknowledge and then demystify these privileged labels because of the skin shade, the name. If I discovered the Nobel and it was called Mhlongo, my maiden name, the Mhlongo, no, listen to me, you see, the Mhlongo Peace Prize. I don't know how many people will be
The
tough to get
Mshongo
that prize.
prize for excellence, excellence, or whatever it is. But sis, there's
Yeah,
something that I want us to touch on before you continue
yeah,
with the question. When you look at the Nobel Prize winners, you
yeah,
realize, and you can't ignore this fact,
yes,
all the Africans are either, the majority of them are peace and then
mm,
literature. And all the
mm,
white Africans go for
mm.
chemistry, they go for physiology, they go for medicine. And you ask yourself the question, you really ask the question, you can't avoid asking that question. Why do we not have black people who are good in chemistry, in
Mm,
medicine, in physiology, in the other categories? We have literature. And
mm,
that really makes me think, but
mm.
also to challenge us and say,
Yes.
when I was doing the book 4, Made in Africa, I came across so many young inventors. I came across so many inventors. And when you look at
Mm,
history, at black inventors, you see,
mm,
some of whether it's the traffic light, whether it's the shoe machine, we've had so many great inventors in
mm,
history.
mm,
And some of
mm,
them, their inventions were not even, were taken
mm.
and licensed by some other people. So when I
Yes,
go right back
yes,
there, I see so much more. I see so much more.
exactly.
And yes, we celebrate what we have, but we want
Yes,
to look at that aspect. I also
yes.
noticed that the first woman, no, our first Black African Nobel Prize winner was a South
Mm,
African. Well, the
yes.
first African Nobel Prize winner was Max Tyler, a
Mm.
South African. He won his Nobel Prize in 1951.
51.
Yeah. And then the second was Chief Albert Lituli, another South African, who came 9 years thereafter. Now, when you go along the line and you're looking for
Mm,
women, the first African woman to win the Nobel Prize was Wangari Maathai. And that
mm.
was way down to 2004. And you're asking, like, are we African women, are we so invisible, or are we so, what the heck is going on here? And when you look at the list of the 25, you realize that we've only had, 5 women.
Mm, mm,
And,
mm.
and, and it intrigues me. I'm like, so, okay, I don't want to go. Let me hand it over back to you.
No, you need to continue in that discussion because basically you've answered 3 of my questions that I had listed. I wanted you to talk about. So you better elaborate further because that's why I'm saying in terms of this book, I mean, of all your books, this is the one that really makes you, it's almost like wanting to discuss the obvious because it again it takes you back to that picture of how our history is told because it is not told by us. You see,
Mm-hmm.
if we and we can list a lot of reasons why we didn't, but the good thing is that now we're talking about it, so hopefully we will start doing because it takes you back why this didn't happen, why this didn't happen. And if there's a lesson I've learned from you, is to move beyond that question. You ask the question, but move beyond that question, because this is one book where you don't only learn the information that we have 24 Nobel Prize winners from Africa, but when your eyes can see, you get much more than that. And this is why this conversation has gone to gender and race and age, because that is what hits you in the face when you look at this book. And as you're talking about the first African, Wangari Maathai, the first woman who won the Nobel Prize, you're asking, hello, and you're talking about inventions by people of African descent in Africa and in the diaspora, especially America, because it is very well documented there. You can see all the things that we were taught at school, who invented this. Until today, our children are still reciting those names, but we know otherwise today where these things came from. Can I just say one thing that just came to mind that I read somewhere, that someone said, you know, when you look at all these inventions in America, you wonder why white people would want to invent that, because those things were done by slaves. It doesn't make sense that your clothes are being washed by someone. You don't have to lift your finger, yet you go and bother yourself to invent the washing machine. You know, why would you even go there? That is just an opinion by the person who wrote the piece that I'm talking about. But for me, it's an opinion that if we were to dwell into, you would want to do more research to realize all these lies that we have swallowed, and we still, many of us are still happy to swallow, can actually be challenged. But then let me go back to you.
With the word challenge, I love that word. I love the word challenge because I challenge myself every time by writing these books. It's not easy to write books. I do all the time. And I put myself out there to be challenged as well as a challenge. So what I want to challenge us takes us to a couple of things that we've said in the other launches, but which was very well said by Bob Marley when he said we have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery because none other but us can do. You know, we've been talking about this thing and saying the recognition that comes from outside, we celebrate it more than what comes from the inside. We notice today, even though we have a Nollywood, you know, we have Ghanaiwood, we have Sallywood, you know, this our African film industries. Those who excel in there still want to go to Hollywood. It's like if Hollywood hasn't called you, you're not successful. It doesn't matter how many awards you get in Africa. It doesn't matter how much, you know, how much you are celebrated in Africa. We still think we must go to little Hollywood to you know, to seek for recognition. And when you go, you come from Africa, you're already sitting on the Queen's chair as a celebrated artist. You go there and they give you a backstage role. You're happy because you're in Hollywood. You don't realize how diminishing that is. So these are some of the things that we need to, you know, question and say, can we set our own African standards and celebrate and stay by them? You know, acknowledge them and say this is what it is. Whether Hollywood accepts it or not, we don't even care. In our minds, Hollywood doesn't exist. We have Nollywood, we have Hollywood, you know, we have the awards that come with them. Do we have to go for the Grammy Award, or can we be happy with our Goma Award, you know, the African Music Award? There's so much that is on the continent. And I think if we start celebrating that, just like we spoke about the book Made in Africa, if we start buying our own cars, we start driving in our own new cars, you see that you're driving in a new car made in Africa, not a second-hand car. When you have that award in Africa, that recognition in Africa, you are number one. You are number one. When we leave our continent, we can only take the second role. We can only be second class. We can only be, you know, we can be on the front row because someone else is on the front row because it is their space. So I just wish that, you know, we come to the space where we start creating ours and nurturing it, making it grow, and not just embracing it, but celebrating it and putting it to the global level, you know, and say, this is the African level of what it is.
Exactly. And having said that, I want to add that, but that big but that you don't like, but I like to acknowledge it. But
Yes.
before we do that, starts here and here.
Mm-hmm.
First, you need to have self-love, self-respect, self-confidence, value yourself. Before you trust me, you must trust yourself. At work, when we have our discussions, or in my trainings, we ask the same question over and over. Women are the majority everywhere you go. Why do we not have vote for women to be presidents? It is us. I'm not saying voting for men. This is not a power struggle between women and men. It's a simple question of saying, if majority rule in democracies, why are women not ruling? And I keep saying, because we don't trust ourselves as women. If I don't trust Jamela, how can I trust Akweta to be president? If I don't feel that I can lead a country, how can I trust Akweta to lead country? So what you do, reflect on how you feel about yourself or how you perceive yourself. So I usually call it self-hatred or self-loathing. And people say I'm using strong words, but I don't know what weak words I can use to express what I want to say. Because the minute you think your skin tone is not good enough, the minute you think your hair is not good enough, you know, the minute you think anything African is not good enough, you hate yourself. You're projecting it outwards to everything that looks like you don't like. We have your David Tlales in these countries, fashion designers. We have your Kensani Manganyis. You can list them. They make brilliant clothes, good quality clothes, but we'd rather have an Italian shoe. And we will brag about that. And I will look at a person and say, shame. Shame for seeing yourself through someone else's image, when even the Bible you read says God created you in God's image, but you are busy trying to be something else that you were not created. You know, self-love. Let me not go on and on, because I can speak for 24 hours here and time is not on our side again. But if one has to say anything about this, is that it starts with you. Each time you catch yourself not liking anything African, remember, you started by hating yourself internally.
Sis, I'll pick up from there. When I started writing this book, I had to go inside of me. I had to do
Yes.
my consciousness check. First, my self-consciousness check. If you want that check, if you want that test, please inbox me. I'll send it to you. It can make, it can turn you upside down. So when I did my self-consciousness check, the next one was my Black consciousness check. There's so many things that we do as Black people without even reflecting. It's automatic. We do because other people do. And we're not here to point fingers. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm trying in my conversation to encourage, to say, if we didn't do it yesterday, that's no reason for us not to do it today. It is more the reason for us to start doing it differently today, to start growing our consciousness. I was not always a proud African woman. It's growing every day with the knowledge that I gain through doing research and writing books. And when I look at our, I can't stop without telling this story. When I look at our young kids that come to the GloBUNTU master classes, the affirmation that we do, you should have been, we did one book, the ABC affirmation. If you want to know what I'm saying, go back to that, the book stream. I think it was on Friday that we launched that book. Listen to what these young kids are saying. When some of them say, Auntie Beatrice, I wish that every child can attend the GloBUNTU masterclass to learn how to love themselves. When they come in, one of the exercises that we do is a vision board. So I just asked the question, when you grow up, when you turn 18, what is it that you want to do? And many of them said in the beginning, I want to travel to New York, to the UK, I want to. And then what we do is I just take the map of Africa, very subtle. We go through all the African countries, and then I come back with the same question. And the transformation is magic. It's instant.
Exactly.
We start saying, well, when I would like to travel the world, but I will start by going to Senegal, I'll go to Seychelles, I'll go to Mauritius, I'll go to Cameroon, because they know the names of the countries.
Exactly.
Because we don't know. So get them to know, and then you see the transformation. When you get to know the African countries, you see that many people may want to go, spend their holidays in African countries. And that's, for me, the beginning of African awareness, of self-awareness,
Yes.
Black consciousness.
Yes.
So we can
Yes.
talk this conversation to different levels. I want to keep it there and go pick on our sister, Nonklankla. She says, this topic is touchy. My late father, Julius Langamandla, I don't know if I pronounce it well, was a founding partner of a creepy Crowley. Even the naming of it, the best pool cleaner in the world. However, the story was never documented, but it's told by my mother. Nonklankla, this is you just expose yourself to me right there. You're gonna have to write this story, and I'm glad that since Camilla knows you're in her office, I am coming after you because you owe that to your father and the rest of your siblings. Thank you for putting this down. You're gonna have to write that story, sister. You don't have to accuse anyone but yourself. You are in now. You know it. You must take it to the next level and make sure that it is documented. That's why you are daughter of your father. That's why your mother told you the story. If she didn't want you to document it, the role of your father was to invent that pool cleaner. The role of your mother was to tell you the story. Now it is on your plate. What are you going to do with it? You have to take it to the next level. So I'm so glad that you put it out here. I'm coming after you, and we have to have that story, that story written.
Exactly. And can I say to Nonhlanhla as well, just to add on that, and I'm not saying Nonhlanhla is in this space mentally, but I'm putting it out because I know I came through that mentality that when you discover something that can be credited to a Black person or your family, something in your mind stops you and say, but now, for instance, the creepy crawly is out there in the market, credited to someone else. So what will happen? But when you do the research and reveal the facts, you shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be scared to do that, because I know people will challenge and say, yeah, you're claiming. In South Africa, you say what claimer, you know? So when we tell our stories as Black people, I have been accused of inventing history. You are inventing history. So I'm just right from the beginning alerting you to that if, I hope you don't, but if you do come across those kinds of situations where they say you are claiming, don't let it stop you, because you know what you are talking about. That's the one thing I wanted to say to Nonhlanhla. So
we have to go through the
I will push her. I told you she's my colleague.
Okay.
So lockdown will be.
We'll go through we'll go take a quick look at the Nobel Prize Winners manuscript, the book. We always do that. And we have a reason for doing that. The reason why I put out my manuscript, on the screen for you to see is to encourage you to write. It's to encourage you. If you go through it, I always start from the cover page and I go right down to the back page so that you see how books are written. So you have the structure. If you can't come into a GloBUNTU masterclass, you see how a book is structured and you can write your own book. That's the reason why I do it. People have asked me, in the inbox, are you crazy putting out your manuscript? And Pauline, my sister, she knows from Guyana, she and I clicked because the first moment that she reached out to me, I shared my manuscript with her. What I'm saying is, we're not here to own what we're doing. It's part of our history, and we put in our part, and we share it with as many people as possible so that many more can do it. So claiming it and sitting on it and not sharing is not the best way to go. It doesn't really help the bigger cause that we are working on. So I'm going to go through the manuscript very quickly. But before then, Geraldine is saying for Washington to Sis Nonhlanhla, Sis, write your father's story. And I'm putting real, sis, write your father's story. And we have our brother William Folefak. This is a name from my village in Cameroon. I greet you, brother. He says African have inventors, and so many, brother. I'm doing research on that. There's so much. If you have them, you want to write about them, please write. Put them on your spaces. There's one thing, sis, that we have to bear in mind when we put out the inventions again. We have to bear in mind that some of the inventors don't have the resources. And there's some
Yes.
people out there who have the
Yes.
resources and may pick up the inventions. So when
Oh,
you see
yes.
those that are in the Africa for Smart Kids book series, I put the videos, I put everything that I can find about them so that it traces it back to them. If someone is picking it,
Yes.
it's documented and it traces it back to them. And if you're doing inventions, I'm going to take your invention and write it in a book, not because I want to own your invention, but because I
Yes.
want it documented. And all the information
Exactly.
that I found about you, I put it in the book. And if I can find you, I want to do an interview with you so that you claim the ownership. And ideally, I would like to quote you to write about your invention, so you claim full ownership of all of that, because it is so important. In as much as
Yes.
we want to showcase this, we must be sensitive about the fact that some people will pick it and run with it because they have the resources.
Thank you.
So,
Yes.
Brother William says, you people have to check out about the World African Inventors. Please, you can share with us. I do have a great collection. We're working on a couple of programs on that. But again, I invite you to do something yourself. Don't just send it to us people. Please join the chorus and let's do all of this together, because there's so much that we need to document. So sis, if you allowed me, I'll go quickly through the book so we see who these Nobel Prize winners are and when they came in. So I'm going to share my screen again.
Okay.
Where is the manuscript? Right here. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
You can see my screen. So, and
it's visible to me
for myself. So again, we start from the top. That's the title page. So we go through all the dedication and all the things, and then we have our table of contents where all of them are listed. And then we continue down. We have the reader's guide. The reader's guide gives you, again, a lot of tips about how you can use this book, and the different target audiences that can use the book, and some activities that you can do in your classroom, in your family, or in your book club, or in the library. They're all in here. And then we define what the Nobel Prize is, give you a little bit of history about the Nobel Prize. And here you have this quick statistics. We have 12 Nobel Prize. No, with the Ethiopian one, we moved from 24 to 25, and that makes 13 of the 25 they received the Nobel Prize for Peace. Okay, so we have literature is 7, physiology and medicine is 3, chemistry is 2, physics 1. We don't have anyone for economic sciences, which baffles me as well. And so that's the total number of, we have 5 women and 20 men at the moment. In this book, I always love to add information. So this book with Nobel Prize winners is punctuated with African lakes. I want you to see some of our lakes while you're reading about the Nobel Prize winners. So I always challenge you again to take your mind from to different places and show you other angles of Africa. So there you have the list again, the Nobel Prize winners per country. And this was the very first in 1991, Max Tyler, a South African.
1951, is it?
1951. 1951. I'm sorry, that was a slip of the tongue. Trying to rush over a book that I wrote over months in a few seconds. So he received his Nobel Prize for physiology or medicine. So you go through, and this is Chief Lituli. He was our first Black African and South African Nobel Prize winner. That was in 1960. And so again, in my books, you always see I have the map of Africa. I show you the country where they come from on the map of Africa, and I put the flag because I want kids to learn from different perspectives. It's so important that we know, the shape of the different African countries and where they are located on the map of Africa. That is for me a way of owning Africa, knowing Africa and owning it. So that's you see, they are all here, their countries and their faces. You see them right here. That was our first. Albert Camus was the first to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature, and the second was our Nobel elder Wole Soyinka. Then so the list continues. You see that's Lake Tanganyika, Lake Tanganyika. Nadine Gordimer was the first African woman to receive the Literature Nobel Prize. So the list continue. You see some of the lakes are still there. We just saw Madiba, and Madiba received the prize not alone. He had a co-recipient, and that was Mr. de Klerk. So we may ask questions on that, but I'm not going to go into that discussion right
I'm not
now.
saying anything.
So then we have another Peace Nobel Prize by Kofi Annan. Okay, so we know who Mr. Kofi Annan was. Yes. So, and this is the first sister, the first mother, the first African woman to have received the Nobel Peace Prize, Wangari Maathai. We know her to be the founder of the Green Birth movement. Everything that is forestation, planting trees, and environmental protection. She was the very first from Kenya. And we have this beautiful lake in Africa. It's the pink lake. It's called Lake Redba. You see it on Monday. On Monday, we're launching the book Wonders of Africa. So you see some of this in there. And then along the line, you have those Nobel Prize winners. And of course, she's very popular as a president. She's the only African female president who is at the same time a Nobel Prize winner. And alongside her, she had a co-winner also from Liberia, and this was Mrs. Lema Gobowe. She also received the Nobel Peace Prize in Liberia. Okay, so this is, no, we have one for, no, he's a doctor. Now, since what we were talking about, now
Yes.
Dr. Denise Mokwange is a gynecologist. And the work for which he received the Nobel Prize is the work that he does with women who had been exposed to crimes of war in the DRC. And it is interesting that he doesn't receive the Nobel Prize for medicine, but he does for peace. Okay, so this is the thing that we're talking about. This is
Exactly.
a typical example. And so this is the youngest Nobel Prize winners last year, Mr. Abiy Ahmed from Ethiopia. He received the Nobel Prize for his peace negotiations between Ethiopia and Somalia. So again, you have possible questions for preschool kids. I start with small kids because they are more receptive, and our kids are more receptive the younger they are. So I want to start with them. And then you have primary school children. They have some tests, some questions, engagement questions here. We have some for smart students. And then, of course, the life plan again. You always have to evaluate your life after you've read a GloBUNTU book. And then you have the list of other GloBUNTU books that follow, so that there are many other books that in the series that you can read to expand your knowledge. So that was the quick trip, the quick trip across how many African countries in search of 25 Nobel Prize winners. So let's see if there's any comment online. No more comments online.
Okay.
So we are 7 minutes over the hour, and I think it is time for us to wrap this conversation. And your words of wisdom, big sister. Sometimes you come in with with the
you want me to close the session?
Yes.
I'm after having these discussions, one is often at a loss of words. But what I can say to our colleagues online is get these books. You will be amazed at how they change you, how they change your mindset, how they make you more inquisitive, how empowering. When you were talking about the kids in your master classes who wanted to travel to New York, Paris, and so forth, but after seeing the map, now they realize that, whoa, there are places around us that we can visit. That is what Madiba says, information is power. Because sometimes we come to this thing of not appreciating what we have because we don't know what we have. History has ensured that we don't know what we have, but now is the time that we know what we have and we need to use that. And Akweta, in your little corner with your little books, you have started that for us who are already exposed. And like you keep saying, let's not say, oh, why don't you do this? As long as you think it, you can do it. So instead of saying, why don't you do this, Akweta, Jamela, You do it because you thought it. That's how now we become a powerful mass. We don't just look at one person who is doing something and think they must do everything. I think for me, that is one of the biggest message we want to carry out there. That's why we're having these launches, because we want to spread this information. Like you keep saying, we are not hoarding this information. We are not monopolizing it and say, this is my script, no one must say it. And that is one of the things that is setting us back as Africans. Because when I've written a book, I don't want to show anyone else how to write a book because I think they will write better than me. That is a self-defeating attitude. When you can empower, again, it is Madiba who tells us the most valuable thing in life, it's you to change someone else's life. So when you are empowered, empower others. If you want to hoard your empowerment so that you are empowered alone, that is not going to work. No one alone can change the world. It takes the actions of each and every one of us to change the world. So Africans, let's get going. Let's not look at each other's faults. Let's look at each other's good achievements and copy from that. And if I am making a mistake, be free to come and say, Jamela, here you're getting lost. Why don't we look at things this way? So that's how we will grow as a continent. That is how we will learn to love and respect ourselves and take this continent forward. It's too good for what the world perceive it to be today. So let's change that. Thank you very much for joining us. Aquenta, it looks like you want to breathe, you want to exhale, and I will let you exhale, my sister. Exhale. These are my last words. Thank you very much for giving us the honor of listening to us vent, because part of this is also to vent. We can't only talk facts and academics and stuff. We're also venting the toxic colonial minds that many of us are still suffering. So this is a space where we liberate ourselves. Aqueta?
Thank you so much, sis. Words of wisdom from my big sister. Online, we have Cornelia says, thank you very much for having us. Sis, it's our honor to have you all the time. We know how congested your agenda is, and the fact that you're always here, you've not missed a single book launch. It's a big honor for us. We acknowledge you. Geraldine says, mind-provoking discussion. Yes, sis, we keep provoking our minds. That's the reason why we're alive. It's a sign that we're alive when we feel, our minds being provoked. So let's go from there and find solutions. Sis Cornelia says, stay safe and look after yourselves. We promise we'll do, sis. You do the same out there in Germany. Sis Nonklankla says, it was an hour well spent. Thank you for sharing the snapshots of the book. Trusting I will find more information regarding my father's contribution to the world. Please go do that. And if you need help, don't hesitate to shout out. And I just want to say, I want to invite people. The reason why we do this books launch online and not on spot, and that's the chance that the coronavirus has given us, the lockdown, is because it allows us to share information wide and bright. Because it is not a one thing that it is done and then you were not there and you lose. It is online. These conversations are online. Let them inspire you. Let them provoke you. Let them even make you mad. Let them make you reach out to us, even if just to oppose or whatever. But we hope that it encourages you to look within your family, look within your circles, look within your comfort zone, look outside of your comfort zone and see whose invention, whose story do you need to spotlight, whose presence do you need to highlight so that their having been here is not lost, their having been here is not being reinvented. Who do you need to celebrate? And again, if you need help, let me know. I am here and I have all the energies in the world when it comes to writing our African stories. So do, whether you want to do watch parties with the videos that are here, please go ahead and do it. Like our page and share it in your circles if you like what we're saying. We are going to continue these discussions even after we've launched all the books. If you want to be part of this and you have an idea about what you want us to discuss about, please don't hesitate, inbox us, or go on the Globuntu Books website, www.globuntubooks.com, use the contact form and send in the idea. Send in the idea not for us to do it, but send in the idea that you want us to do, to realize together. And we will put all the energies together, because we can't afford to blame anyone. We owe it to the last generation. We owe it to our generation and to the next generation to tell another story of Africa 60 years after independence. We can't always complain, because complaining doesn't solve any problems. And, resignation is not an answer. It is not an option. We look forward. So we are putting out what we have as a form of invitation for you to put out what you have, or to, complement what we're putting out there, and let's make it bigger. So that said, sis, on Monday, if someone is looking for the place that you want to go to when the lockdown is over, those of you in the diaspora, you want to visit the continent, you don't want to miss the book launch on Monday. We're talking about the wonders of Africa. You're going to see 26 wonders of Africa. Look at how beautiful this is. So you're going to be seeing them, and those may be your next holiday destinations, because we're not just talking about history, we're also giving you things that you can do right now. Where our wonders are, that's where you can go spend your next holiday with your children. So we will see you on Monday. May you have a fabulous weekend, an insightful, thought-provoking, knowledgeable, wisdom-filled weekend. And we will see you on Monday when we're talking about the wonders of Africa. And if you want to see which other books are coming up, just go on the page, Facebook page, and you see the lineup of the next books, because one is going to be The Untold Story, the legacy of people of African descent in Europe. And then we're going to be talking about Black wisdom as well in the next days. So thank you so much, sis, for being part of this conversation. I know you're busy as well, but now you're released. Big sister, you're released. And I'm releasing myself as well. Thank you. Bye. And all of you out there on Facebook, bye. And those of you, bye.